I know, and I think I was driving or I was in the meeting or something when you text. I saw it though, but you know how sometimes the adrenaline gets to going, and you just like, okay,
I was like, she busy. It's okay. She know.
yeah, we're gonna do something else. When I say we're gonna do something else, we are definitely going to do something else, and I think we may end up having to do that like twice a year almost,
Okay.
um, because the board was so excited to see students. And literally, they got right into it. And my students was like, what? What? I'm like, yeah, this is the stuff we talk about and we warn you guys about. And now you see it unfolding.
Mhm.
You
Mhm.
see that they're giving you maximum penalties.
Yes.
So the highest, even the attorney was there. And it's so many. I'm going to have my students tonight just kind of recap their experience, but they were just sitting there, seats like eyeballs just real cots. I'm like, they're not playing. They caught six people running out the back of a shop.
Oh wow.
Usually I've heard of that from other inspectors. It's in nail shops and stuff, but I think this was a shop. So, and then the penalty is you may have went to school, you got your hours, but then you didn't go take your test. You didn't take your test. And so that's a big gap too. You still get fined.
Mhm.
They're giving you the maximum, even if you're not licensed and get caught. So, and he was like, per fine, the maximum is up to $1,000 fine. And after about three of those, he said he coming for you, the state attorney. I was like, ooh, this worse than jail. It's worse than
Look, and I don't want to see either one of them.
right. I don't want to see either one of them. And so, because when he comes, he's going to require you to come before the board. All of that is public notice. You don't want your business on Front Street.
Right.
Yeah. So it was good. Man, it was very. Let me say, I was. It was very. It felt good for them to to see how the board works. They even got little holiday gifts. They gave them little baggies for coming out and took pictures with the board with a board member. So it was good.
I'm excited. I'm excited. I definitely want to come to the next one. I
Yeah,
definitely want to come to the next one because I
yeah,
looked at the agenda and I was just like, oh, I can't talk to her about it. Okay. I'll talk to her on Wednesday.
yeah.
Awesome.
So
Awesome.
I actually it's on YouTube. I'm gonna link it in the group probably. It's on there. It was
Okay.
recorded on YouTube, the whole meeting, and they asked me to present two classes for 2025 for my continue. I offer continuing educations for the state if you're an educator. And
Mhm.
so they approved those, and I got the opportunity to talk about the needs of educators in the classroom. So it's more that I could have said, but it was, and I was looking for questions and stuff, and they was just like, uh, approve. I was like, okay, this how God works. All right, I'll take it. See y'all next year. So it's gonna be. And my students, we ended up having lunch and they headed on back, but it was a really good experience. And I ask anybody to go. And you got to be a watchman because that's your license. You know what I'm saying? And so it's even other issues like coming up. That compact license only applies to cosmetology. That's what we found out. And they're going to apply it to aesthetics. So, in the way they had it set, it looked like once it got approved, it applied to all the licensures. But right now, it just applies to cosmetology. So, natural hair, you'll still be Tennessee unless you reciprocity to another state that has natural hair license. Um, the compact license for cosmetology, 25, once you take the test, you'll be automatically, your license is good in 5 or 6 other states. Not so for everybody else.
Yeah, that's what I when you originally read it, when we originally talked about it, there was no specified field. It just said license.
Right. And getting that's one of the things they talked about. And I was like, see, I'm glad I'm here. I even found clarity on that because I know not to say, you know, I don't want to say the wrong thing. So I found some clarity on that. And I was like, they might have to go back and rewrite that. And how about your lash techs, your lash specialists, once they get their training and go and pass their exam, their license is free.
What?
Guess why? When they wrote the law, being smart, they forgot to put in there a fee for the license. And then the board who's supposed to set the rules didn't put the fee in there, just thinking it was okay, this is just a copy down, so we good. And so yeah,
So basically, they take their course, they take their test, and they just apply for the license and get it.
apply for well, once you take the test, you have to apply for the license and then there's no fee for it. Yep. And it was a mistake. So right now, if you're a licensed, if you've been through a lash training course, you need to go and take your test while your license is free with the state. Yeah, so those were some things that were discovered, and an actual board member asked the director that, and she was like, "Yeah, right now it's no fee on it. We messed up."
And they can't bring that up again for what, another year?
They can. It'll have to go through the. They may already be going through the process. We'd have to go through and change the law, and from that change the law to the rules. So it'll be 26. They could do July 1st, 25. It may, a correction may come up July 1st, 25. Then it don't go into effect until January 26th. So right now, that's a 10-week program. Somebody can get in. It's a lot of people that can get in and get out before that time, before January. And then the law was supposed to be passed on July 1st. They didn't actually get the paperwork until the 10th. So something, when laws are set in place, it's like, and that was one that was coming up that the board pretty much was done without the board oversight. You know how they sneak stuff in? And so pretty much when they hear about it, then the board got to kind of catch up. So the paperwork was late, but so yeah,
That's over a year. You know how many people?
yeah. So they'll probably end up just paying renewal going forward. Yeah, yeah. You learn a lot when you just you sit down. They were approving individuals with felonies and things of that nature. And here's one thing they were saying too. When you have, like, just say someone's incarcerated now and they taking a course, well, and if they have a felony, presently have a felony, and they taking a course, in order for you to test, you need to do a letter, like have a letter of recommendation, right? In that letter of recommendation, the person pretty much just says, hey, how will you think this will benefit the person, they, whether they're changed or not, whatever. And so this person did them a letter of recommendation to test, but she also stated that she felt the person was inadequate, was not trained properly. My eyeballs went up and said, ooh. So
And that's the letter that was read out loud?
not out loud, but it was certain parts of it. Yeah, you can go back and look at the meeting. She was like, well, she's basically saying she's writing a letter, but she's letting you know training is not up to par. So it's nothing they could say about that. They can't measure it. You wrote the letter and said you approved on him taking a test. So he takes the test. He passed the test. He's a hairstylist. He's a barber. and until somebody files a complaint that he messed up something, which is that's just where we at. But it was when I say it, yeah, yeah, it was good. It was good because it. I told my students, messing, you messing around like you're untouchable. Mess up that license. That license also messes up. It's a state official government license. You know what I'm saying? So your driver's license is attached to that license. Any other business licenses, anything that you ever file for in the state of Tennessee is attached to that license. They can find you. And if you don't show up, you don't answer their call when they ask you to come to the board, they can continue to track and put halts on all your other stuff until you show up and you answer. So, and the last thing, managers, we know from reading the law book that they're making the managers a little bit more accountable, right? So y'all be very careful because a lot of times salon owners or individuals that own salons who are not in the beauty industry say, "You be my manager," because you got to have the manager to open up. And you may have this really cool benefit package and stuff like that, but make sure it's worth it because the manager gets held on the same higher cord and responsibility, and you're accountable for everything just like the owner. So it used to be just all on the owner, but now the manager also gets held accountable. So that $1,000 fine could be towards your license as well. So whatever you're managing, make sure it's always on the up and up, always, because now managers are held just like the owners. Nobody getting away. Nobody's getting away. And there's minimum that they could fine, but they're giving you the max, which is $1,000 fine per instance. So whatever they fine, the max could be $1,000. And so they were saying, some people just say, "I pay the fine, I pay the fine." They're so used to just paying the fine. And they say, "Well, after about 3 fines, we're gonna do something else." Oh, so now you're gonna start touching that other paperwork. So I always tell people just up and up, and they are really cutting down on like suite owners that don't are saying they don't have no responsibility for the people who are inside their suites. So, just really be mindful of that. It's different things I tell you off record. Just advice until you get your paperwork on the stay on the low key. Everybody is not a client.
I got you.
Definitely. Everybody is not a client. So that was good. I just wanted y'all to share that. But I'm going to man, I shared it in a group, that state board meeting. It was really, really good. And there wasn't many people there, but it was really, really good. Um, Man, yeah. So, and PSI just had a test review. So, if anything's going to be changing test wise, it's going to be 26. So, right now, when you guys study and get ready to take your test, you don't really have a whole lot of changes. Milady hasn't said anything firm yet about changing this textbook, so we're still right there. So nothing pertaining to you guys' license has changed. So that's the safe part. But we'll go ahead and get everything taken care of.
That's beautiful. Because I was like, please don't change anything between now and Sunday.
Nah. We can't do that. Let's tapping into between now and when. What you said, Jada?
Between now and Sunday. I say, I say Sunday.
Don't change anything between now and Sunday. Mm-mm. I did want to talk. I know we had started back over with chapter 1, but if you haven't read the book Madam C.J. Walker, read the book. I think Netflix still has the movie Madam CJ Walker. When I tell you it's going to be an amazing um, discovery for you because Jada is like the modern day Madam CJ Walker. I saw her cocktails on her one of her profile, one of your pics on your Facebook, and I said, "Look at her just mixing and matching, mixing stuff." But it really, think about it. They didn't have anybody, y'all, to tell them about their hair. Only thing they had was the hairdresser, and then preparations. That's what we make. That's the hair products that you purchase that you buy now. They had to make those. Can you imagine the study, the little bit that they knew about ingredients to get to the point of saying, "Hey, mix this together, put this together, it'll grow your hair," things of that nature. And also remember, they didn't really eat a lot of what we eat, which is fast foods and toxins and medicines and stuff. They didn't put all that in their body. Now they probably was eating greens and hog maws and all that stuff. So I don't know. But I do know as far as processed food, they didn't have all that. And so there's definitely a connection from the past that you can learn from that can take you over into the future. So when we talk about looking at some of our heritage, this particular woman, Annie Minerva Pope, Turbo Malone, long name, but Annie Malone, that's what they called her, Annie Malone. Read her story, very interesting. She first had preparations for hair, and she had this sales approach, and a lot of people say, yes, she was Madam C.J. Walker's rival. Madam C.J. Walker stole the preparation recipe from her, but isn't it possible to create your own? You know, you may have had a place where you learned it from, but also, is it possible that she possibly could have said, "Let me re-innovate this. Let me add something to it," and then now it makes it different. And to hear those two stories come together in the movie and also in the book, it's just like sometimes you got to go all the way back, and so it brings a little entertainment to the industry as well. And then you look and say, "This been going on." This been going on for companies, for companies, for companies. If you ever have you guys ever heard of Andy's Clippers?
I've definitely have heard of Andes. It was my first set of clippers, and
Uh,
maybe the lowest grade brand of the clippers that I had.
okay,
Yeah,
Andy's, Wall, and Oster.
yeah.
Okay, in many different instances, especially Andy and Wall, they were partners, and one left and made another brand. And so a lot of times the patent stays the same, but it gets tweaked a little bit. So a lot of time when people say, "Oh, I like Wall over Andy," I say to myself, same patent. Now over the period of time, they may have tweaked it. The market may be a little different, different packaging, but at the end of the day, same patent. Cause both the
And
name.
it's funny because I recently did research on Turbine and Madam C.J. Walker. It's February of this year when I was
Mhm.
working on a project, and so I've never read the book. I did see snippets of the movie. I haven't had a chance to sit down and see the whole movie, but just reading about their stories,
Mhm.
I was like, okay.
Oh yeah.
So,
And
okay.
yeah, yeah, really okay. And Magnum CJ Walker was just modern day marketing. It reminds me of Just For Me marketing. It reminds me of the marketing you see every day. Magnum CJ Walker didn't literally have a daughter, but from the book and just from folk stories, there was she adopted this young girl that was being taken. So her grandmother was taking care of her, and grandmother had a whole lot of kids, and and so grandmother was taking care of all these kids. So Madam C. Walker comes around. This young lady has long hair, probably Indian descent, something, and African. And so Madam C. Walker says, "Hey, I will pay you such and such money. Let me take her. Let me adopt her." And so she adopted her into her family. But with the long hair, She sold it marketing like her products made hair grow. She used, so that's how a lot of people end up initially coming over, is thinking that the product made that young lady's hair grow because she used her as a model. But if you think about it, we purchase and we buy based on what we see and what's being sold, what's been told to us. And so if you look on just for, and I mimic that with just for me relaxer, because you see kids on the front, beautiful hair, and you would think that that relaxer was made for kids, but in actuality, it's the same pH of an adult relaxer. So you're talking 9.2 and up. So yeah, ain't nothing kiddie about it. Still the same strong chemical. It's just they put a kid on it and made millions of dollars off of it, because we bought it and thought, this would be lesser, this would be for kids. And look how many kids that we had with hair loss problems. And since we know, what we know now is that children mature, their hair matures at a certain stage, just like their body goes through puberty. And so until your body goes through that process, your hair is not really, should have no chemicals on it. And think, many individuals don't go through puberty to 14, 15, 16. Can you imagine how young back in the day some young kids had chemical relaxers on their hair? Their hair was never given a chance. You never gave it a chance to really set in there. So it was probably over processed off. And growth was probably stunted in so many different areas. So that the marketing that we see today is the same marketing that they did back in the day to sell their products. And sometimes the ingredients didn't balance, sometimes the ingredients were too strong, and sometimes it was spot on. All right. But Annie Malone, Madam CJ Walker, and they both built marketing teams, and then they also built beauty schools. Okay. And so just think, going from one product, and then they didn't have social media, so you had to train the people who were going out. And not only train the people going out, you said, let's go ahead and do a beauty school so we can train them how to do the hair and use the product. And so this is like the beginning of platform artistry, the beginning of sales teams and things of that nature. So yeah, yeah. And for them back in the day, $1 million was super, super rich. Super rich. So from their schools to their products, a lot of them generated, millions of dollars. And Madam CJ Walker is coined with being the first Black female millionaire, um, which is still arguable, because Annie Malone also was a millionaire. So, and she had her products and things like that out first. But I think she really didn't push until she had competition. So it could have been that Madam C.J. Walker was the first Black female millionaire. And let's get this together. Neither of them invented the pressing comb, okay, or the Marcel iron. They invented the product to use with the pressing comb and the Marcel iron. All right. And so Frenchmen, some of the early Frenchmen in Marcellus, I forgot his last name, invented the Marcel iron, and it was already
His
invented by the
last name was Garciella.
There you go. It was already invented by the time these preparations came, so it made it better. And when I don't know about your grandmothers, but I remember in my grandmother's house, there was always a can on the stove. You know what was in that can? They didn't have spray oil for your pans. They had something called lard. Y'all remember that? It was white, and it was grease, and it was white, greasy, and they would open that lard up and take a tablespoon and put it in the pan, and let that oil melt, and then start to fry their foods and cook their foods in the pan. They never threw away the oil. They took the oil and poured it back in the pan. and the in the bucket, and that bucket always sat on the stove. Y'all remember that? Or that was a long time.
Yes, ma'am. The empty coffee can. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, or the Crisco can. And I went in the store, they still sell that. I said, oh, they still sell lard. Okay. I remember it. And so that's the thing where they never threw away grease. And they used to also use that on their hands and toes and stuff like that. It was glycerin. And so a grease like consistency, lard, fat, was used as some of the key ingredients in hair care products from Madam C.J. Walker and Annie Malone. So they cook with it, but then they put it in their hand, and probably a red flag went off and said, I wonder what else I could do with this. And that was one of their ingredients as well. And can you imagine when that pressing cone hit it and you may have greased your scalp with that lard? Can you imagine your scalp popping? It's a whole lot. So just something you want to definitely look into. So just some of your history. Read that, read that, read that, read that. And it's always a good read as well. So it says, just for your information, Annie Malone was one of the first African American millionaires. They got her as one of the first. By the late 1920s, her net worth was estimated at 14 million. She also donated money to charities and black colleges such as Howard University and Tuskegee Institute while serving as president of the St. Louis Colored Orphans Home. Okay, so both of these individuals migrate from Louisiana. Well, Madam Sierra Walker from Louisiana to St. Louis and different places in between. And so 14 million, if I was to Google, let me see, 14 million, 14 million in 1920 today, it would be, y'all ready? 227,219,259.26. She was a wealthy, wealthy, wealthy woman. Ain't that something? That's overkill of 14 million in the 20s and would estimate over 227 million today. And so they sold a lot of hair grease. That's all I'm gonna say. If that don't motivate you, they sold a lot of hair grease. Okay, so making sure you read a little bit on that. Another one, Sarah Spencer, born in 1889 in Buckley, Virginia, graduated from Norfolk Mission College, and in 1933 she decided to enter the beauty profession despite her family's objections. Yes, so Malone and Madam Celia Walker inspired her. One thing about her, she did study cosmetology in Philadelphia. And y'all, I think in the last couple of years, Madam C.J. Walker's product has made a comeback. Her great granddaughter, I think, is spearheading, she wrote the book, but trying to bring the product back. I've seen it in stores, but I haven't seen it have a whole lot of traction. And I want to say that there's a museum where her beauty school was in New York. Um, but we'll read up more about that. If you have, I got to go to New York in March. I might try to go by there or something, seeing if I catch a tour. But that would be something I love.
What product is that?
Madam C.J. Walker, yeah. Um, she got shampoos and creams and stuff. When the movie came out, they relaunched the product.
I haven't seen any of it.
But that's why I'm saying it doesn't have traction. And it should have because of the name. So okay, let me share this with you so you can see it. It looks like this. I've seen it in Walmart and Walgreens.
Okay, I don't like that packaging. Let me just start there.
Right. I'm
Because that
about to
definitely
say
does not give Madam CJ Walker vibes to me. I'm sorry I had to say that. But okay, now I know what to look for.
the packaging. Yeah. Mm-mm. Bomb to oil. If they would have came out with like an original oil or serum, like what she had,
Yeah, see,
and
like the packaging, the older packaging, I would have just did a play off of that, and that would
yeah,
have
scalp ornament. If they would have
millennials,
brought this back the way it was, it would have been off the chain.
millennials, or not,
Yeah,
not even millennials, not that's me, Gen X, Z, whatever letter they are now.
I'm sure Gen X probably didn't even. I'm sure Gen X probably didn't even have nothing to do with it. And the reason I say that because Gen X probably would have had it more colorful, you know. And this is the second upgrade of the packaging, so you know they know that initially the packaging, well, this was 2016. That other packaging
That looked like Bath and
is,
Body Works to me.
yeah. So they've done some repackaging of a couple of different times, and I think it's in the marketing. Some company probably should have probably bought this and just trying to stretch it as much as possible, but this looks like private label. It looks like private label, really. It does.
Yeah, that's definitely private label or one of those like that
Um,
because it's
yeah.
very templatey.
I like that. I like that term, simply. Mhm. All right, let's see what we got. Going back to our textbook. Um, what we had here. All right, can y'all see back? We're back on our page.
I don't see it.
You don't see it? Mm, let's see. Let's see. Okay. Are we all back?
I
It
can see
says
it.
sharing. Okay, awesome. Um, so Sarah Spencer having more experience in chemistry and things of that nature. So you'll probably see things kind of change. Um, it says she was granted a patent for and developed the Apex system, a new system of straightening the hair of Black women. She opened a small beauty parlor using the name Madam Sarah Spencer. Okay. Um, so pretty much it started with Malone, it started with CJ Walker, and now Spencer is adding the chemistry education background to it, and now she's starting to move into straightening of the hair instead of just treating the hair. She's moving into actually straightening the hair. um, she founded a Apex News and Hair Company, the largest New Jersey Black-owned business and one of the nation's leading Black manufacturing companies. So now, instead of just cooking it in the kitchen, you know, she has a manufacturing company, and manufacturing companies are great because um, they say, "I'm not in a race to be great with you. I am here to help you." And so a manufacturing company will say, I will take all of your product and I will make it. We'll make it all the same. We'll be consistent and we'll package it and label it and we'll ship it over to you, ship it over to you, and ship it over to you. And so as you start to see, it is starting to get the flow is starting to get a little bit more easier. And so she had plenty of she was also one of the first African American millionaires, plenty of employees, plenty of distribution, and things like that. Most of these ladies were philanthropists because remember, this is where you're starting to um, like more so like Black independence. You have a NCAA that has already been created, but trying to get black leaders to kind of be the face of it. And so they were great with asking them for donations, but they didn't want a lot of them, they didn't want them to be a part of it. They still felt like hair was beneath them. You know, if you didn't have a lot of education, you can't have a seat. But they wanted your check, they wanted your money. And if you look, continue to just read bios and look at the books, um, even with Madam C.J. Walker, they wanted her to be in the back instead of, but she wanted to be up there and speak with the men, and but they wanted her check. But what was his name? Um, Frederick Douglass, I think, didn't really like her. You know, he wanted her money, but he didn't want, and he wanted um, money that she made in the beauty industry, but he didn't think the beauty industry was respectable. So we've been dealing with that for decades and centuries, for centuries, since the beginning of this era. And so, but as you can see, they were making money back then, and still, with all the new things we got, still making money to that today. Um, and then you have the Jim Crow era, in which you can always look at this. Here we go. We're starting about integration. Many African Americans going up north, segregating from the South, and then you having many affluent African American businesses coming to the forefront, and still going through some of the things that they were making the money, but they were still treated um, like nothing or nobody. So just continue watching that. Um, and if you have not seen the video on YouTube, how to successfully sell to the Negro, I need you to watch it. Um, and that's something on your own time. But in this Jim Crow era, you will see the studies coming out of the end of it. You'll see the studies are like, they're growing, they have rights. I'm talking about blacks, they have rights. And so how do we there we see that they have the money. How do we get some of that money? Okay. So you start looking at different plans that were put in place that you still see today, and those plans are still in place. And so there's a documentary that was created where it took the Europeans created to educate other European business owners how to sell to the Negro, the black Negro. Very, very interesting. So, and we could see it in beauty. If you look at some of the beauty supply stores and the people who continually are consumers in beauty, African Americans are the highest consumers of beauty cosmetics, hair preparations. So we drive the industry, and we in trend and in money. But it's very few of us that own any of it. And a lot of times you can see, if you look at the documentary, you can see the documentary still in place, i.e., my experience, Memphis beauty supply stores. You look at ownership from when you were a kid, it changed from one group, um, Asian, Vietnamese group, and it switched to Arab, Arabian group, and now it's switching over to the Indian groups. And so he's like, when is it ever going to switch over to us? We are set to be the consumers. It'll never switch over to us. All right, we are the customer. Everybody else are the ones that make the money. And so that's something I won't put views in nobody, but definitely go out and check that video out, and then just look at your local surroundings and go back 20 years. You'll be able to see it. It's just a repeat of itself. Every couple of years, it's just a repeat of itself. the same thing. So that's always something to look at. And segregation and things like that could be really, really painful for people to listen to and for people to look at. I want you to look here. It says in the 1930s, the Conch Lie based relaxer was popular. Um, and so, pretty much, now we're looking at the relaxer. Um, Conch Lie, okay, was a very, very strong relaxer. A lot of you, it was introduced to a lot of people how strong it was in the Malcolm X movie, his documentary autobiography, where he had to. It was burning so bad he rinsed it out in the toilet. The recipe for the first conch was combined red devil dye, 2 eggs, and two mashed white potatoes in a mason jar. Vaseline was applied to protect the scalp, and at the end of the treatment, the mixture was rinsed off with soap and water. Y'all, soap at that time was pure lye. So, soap and water, even more lye and water to rinse it off. And that was the first relaxer treatment. Okay. And still um, in some of the treatments, you still have alternatives to the ash and alternatives to the potatoes that's in their current relaxers. And if you ever used a relaxer, I think within the last 20-25 years, you've seen how that relaxers have evolved, and them trying to move towards safer relaxers doesn't really give you what the results that you used to get back in the day. And I would still say it's not the relaxer most of the time that's the damaging, it's the person lack of education and training that damages the hair. So if you had the education, you'll know what type of relaxer to use on the client, or if none. And then but so many things have come about when they start putting it in home kits in the 40s and 50s. Now you're putting this major chemical in somebody's hand who and you're just saying read the directions. All right, now we start to have some issues. And you have product companies that really did get sued because they had a lack of knowledge, they lack of training, lack of notice on the packaging for individuals who use the product. So it was, I don't know if you remember, you guys are probably too young. There was a product company called Rio, and it had lack of labeling and mislabeling, and many individuals used this type of relaxer, and a lot of people hair came out. I mean, patches. And so this company was held liable, went out of business actually, simply because that mistake of lack of packaging and marketing going forward, like it was just going to be amazing, and you putting it in the hands of everyday people without any acknowledgement, any warnings. And so now, after the 50s, you start to see products have liability insurance and come with warnings. Okay. From there, I think there's even a relaxer lawsuit going on now. I don't know how that's going to pan out, but I see that now. From there, you have Johnson Products. Have you ever heard of Design Essential? Um, the guy who made Design Essentials was partnered with another guy who created the first Jerry curls. A lot of history, a lot of history, and you'll see that the Gina curl today is the Jerry curl of back in the day. So everything just after about 30 years, it starts to 30, 40 years, come back around again. And so in Black American history, you'll start to see, you can look at the styles, and when you start to introduce relax scalp treatments, from and then straightening with combs and things of that nature. And then you're moving on to relaxers, and then you're moving on to safer relaxers. From there, adding more texture back into the hair, which is Jerry curls, and then it continually evolves over and over and over again. Okay. Yes, there's a point of activism, segregation, and a lot of times it was documented in magazines But now at this particular time, you now have individuals. I'm gonna do an air quotes good hair. Okay, you now have them try to characterize what's good and what's bad, and then you have individuals start to say we're all African descent, but because I'm up north, this is this is better, and because you're down south, this is not better. So individuals start to say, um, kind of like a Chinese legacy, you know, try to find their way in culture, and find their place in culture, and sometimes by demeaning the person right next to you. And we saw this a lot in the early 60s. Afros were pretty much coming, was at the height, and then they started to come down. Many individuals start going to relaxers and pressing. Okay, and also hair color starts to be introduced to the African market in this particular time. So you'll start to see many African Americans come in with blondes and things of that nature. So any some permanent hair colors, and just think permanent hair color, and then you're using this quote unquote home package relaxer in some cases. Now you start to see this critical aspect of a really breaking hair starting to go through something that it's never been through before. So you'll start to see more and more treatments being developed, and as the treatments are being developed, there's more and more issues that are going on with the hair as well. You will find many individuals start to go back to their natural textured hair, which brings us to your course. Have you not seen that in the last 10 years that many individuals are going back to their roots? Okay. And this is where, in this time, it's birthing chemical free hairdressers, you know, natural hair and braiding texture specialists, whatever you want to name it. And so this starts to become, you don't have to just wear your hair one way if you're going to be natural. There's many different styles they could do. During the 70s and 80s, braids and things like that started to be introduced. Hair pieces, additional afros on a whole nother scale started to be introduced as well. And now you have individuals, healthier hair, healthier scalps, um, but having a need for diversity in styles. So for a long time, you just had them wearing small, medium, and large afros. And so you guys over a period of time are cultivating these hairstyles. And so on men and women, you're starting to see now natural hair can wear so many other styles. And it's just the treatment and preparation of those styles. So without using chemicals. Okay. You'll start to see the buzz of African American hair companies grow. Now, here's the thing. Yes, in the 70s, you saw those companies grow. How many of those companies are still around that are still Black owned? Well, you do have Brunner Brothers. You also have Luster's. So you went in the store and seen Luster's Peak Oil Moisturizer. Luster's is still around. Okay, still around. Um, I don't know about the many aspects. The owner of Design Essentials, who originally partnered with someone else and they created the Jerry Curl, his systems are still around. Okay, so Dudley system is still around. And if you really want to look at how these companies grew, they really mocked Madam C.J. Walker's and Annie Malone's blueprint. If you think about it, they created the products. Most of them started with scalp oils, and then it grew to additional products. Then they created systems and a sales team to go out there and sometimes door to door to sell. And from there, they created education teams or colleges. And so, um, a lot of our history and how we do stuff has come from those two ladies. Okay. And even for the larger companies that we have today. The 80s took a hit. The companies in the 80s and 90s took a hit. Okay, because these, and it's a business, because these businesses were making a whole lot of money. And remember, who drives the beauty industry? Our culture. And not only driving it as far as discovering styles and techniques and culture, but also in sales. So you'll see, they could be making a money, but they probably were paying top dollar for the ingredients. So there's companies that would sit out there, they were Caucasian based, that would sit out there and wait on companies to starve, because most black companies would not let them in. They would wait on companies to starve, and they would go in and say, "Hey, I know you guys are having a hard time." Or in actuality, they would, back in the day, have instances that they could control who bought what for how much. And so if they really wanted to come in and take your company, they could alternate. If they had a partnership with another company, they could easily go in and say, charge these people this amount, which is overpriced for these ingredients, and come in, give you a quote, and say, hey, we want to purchase your business for this amount. Sometimes that amount would be too low for the value of the business. And sometimes that company would just sit back and wait on that black hair company to get down to a bare minimum, like go through real strengths and come in and offer them a low price for the company. Okay. And when they did purchase the company at that low price, then they would take it and then they would shoot it back up. And so this happened a lot in the 80s and 90s. Okay. So a lot of our companies that we no longer had ownership of, but you thought that they were still black owned because you saw the marketing never changed. They still marketed to the same people, but they were not. Some of those companies, one of those companies is L'Oreal. And how many, you can go on there and see how many companies they own. If you go in P&G, the individuals that make washing powder, video games, toys, Procter and Gamble. Procter and Gamble owns a lot of companies. L'Oreal owns a lot of other smaller companies. Okay, and a lot of them started out being African American based, and so it kind of puts a bad taste in my mouth when I see these companies. Then I learn of the history and what could have went down when you bought this company, and how this heritage that was supposed to be ours, we drove the culture, probably got way less than what it was valued as. Um, and there's a lot of companies now that you can just go into the store and you would say, "Oh, it's a black model, it must be black owned." You're absolutely wrong. And in today's market, I would say, if you've been following natural hair in the last 10 years, if you've also followed social media in the last 10 years, I'm going to say, yeah, natural hair in the last 10 years. If you went to the international, what is it called in Atlanta? Is it an international natural hair show?
The
It,
Talia Wahi.
yeah. Amazing show. Amazing show. I
I go
think
every year. I go
every,
every year.
Nina, you gotta go. You gonna promise me you gotta go. We're gonna meet. Let's put it in 2025 that we're gonna meet at this show. We gotta go, y'all. So okay, so what happened prior to COVID, I think maybe 17, 18, something like that, before the school was open. Um, a lot of these companies, these smaller companies that you see that are bigger companies now, they were literally the forefront of that show. And that was the first time I had seen so many black owned hair care companies that catered to natural hair again in one space. I absolutely loved it. And I think at that time I was teaching hair color to textured hair. And so that was a big thing of you're going natural, but how do I miss my color? So just me talking about just the differences, and if you are coming out with color, how to take care of it. And also, this is where we talked about you're not natural anymore if you're using color, you're semi-natural. Okay. So having those debates, it was very healthy, but at the same time, it was, you could tell that something was on the rise. And a lot of these companies built their companies on social media, Instagram. And so at the end of the day, you're sitting up there like, wow. And when I look at them today, a lot of the companies that were really in the kitchen and were built on Instagram and sold volumes, millions of dollars before even going into stores, you bring the attention of other major companies. And so many of those companies have been sold to non black major collaborating companies. And you would say, what happened? Well, this is the thing that happens. People will sit back and watch. And yes, what percentage of it is business? One of my favorite um, companies, um, Miel, is it Miel? Miel Organics?
That's her.
An amazing, I mean, a history making deals. I mean, you've never seen this type of sales, history making deals, sold, and you be the owner. Hey, look, my opinion, business is supposed to grow to be sold. And then you keep, once you do that, you keep making more. You keep growing more businesses and sale, growing more businesses and sale. That's my thing. It's just a whopping how much that these businesses were sold for. The lady, she has very long hair. She started in the kitchen. She was a nurse. She's on Instagram. Do you know who I'm talking about? She has an African name, but I forgot her products. But her products are
It was did she have the hair cream, the butter
uh
that she mixed
huh.
together that grew her hair? I can't think of her name.
But she has real long hair, and she
Yeah, I think
is,
she grew 30 inches of her own hair.
yeah. She that same concept comes from Madam C.J. Walker, but she sold, that company sold for like $40 million. But she was still the same. She's still the head of it for a certain amount of time, but it sold for $40 million. And so she just keeps making, taking her same blueprint and making more product, more companies behind it. Um, and then there was Curl's daughter, who L'Oreal came in and swooped up again. And so people are seeing the traction that African Americans or Black hair care is making. And when I tell you, there were only a few brands that cater to natural hair. Now you have so many brands, even celebrities have companies that cater to natural hair. And I'm going to tell you now, I'm not using no celebrity products because I know it is simply private label, and they're simply just trying to get in on it. Now, if the celebrity backed the product, Curl's daughter, that would probably be the only one significantly that I would use, because her first investors were celebrities and she used it on their hair, and she built that company with her mom and made those products in the kitchen. So, and her investors were Black women. That's how she got to a mass production. And then she could, how stuff gets too big and you need more production, more consistency, then of course, yeah, it may be time to move over to a major manufacturer. But that her company is probably the one that started this rapid growth of natural hair care companies. But I think she has gotten swallowed in the mix with everything else. So it's still one of the greatest, I believe, one of the greatest stories about natural hair care companies. But it's so many more companies that are doing exceedingly well, but they are not pretty much owned by Black companies anymore. Black founders, and you're looking at $1 million market just for natural hair. Can y'all want some of that? I want some of that. A $1 billion market just on products and hair care alone. Okay, and so somewhere along the line, I should see you guys with something. Yes, you are doing techniques, but I need you to prepare for your
I'm working on my piece of the pie.
yeah. Yes, you have great hands and techniques, but what happens when you don't want to work your hands anymore? You don't want to. I
Oh
met a
no,
man.
yeah, that's why I said like I'm working on my piece of the pie because I'm working on
Right.
my products.
And I met a man at the bank, and he was telling them, "Hey, um, I'm clearing out my account, his investment account." And he said, "Look, y'all been giving me the runaround for 3 days. I'm calling, I'm going in. Now you telling me I got to come back when there's an ROI specialist." He said, "No, I want my money and I want it now." And he said, "Look, tomorrow's not promised." He said, "I woke up one day and said, man, mom getting old. I'm getting older." And he was an older man, older white gentleman. And he said, "Look, what am I doing?" He said, I'm about to go live my life now. What are we doing? Been saving for all these years, all this time, worked all these jobs. I want my money. And it just brings it back to, it's been adding up in the bank. And guess what? They was like, "You ain't getting that money because we probably ain't got it." And he literally said that, "I want my money today. What are we saving this for? We don't know what tomorrow is going to be." And he was absolutely right. And that really made me just push and say, okay, I need to live a little bit more for today, simply for today. Um, and you will start to see some other companies that came about, Dark and Lovely, TCB. I had a TCB things. It says, when informed in 1993 brand awareness study that brands like African Pride, Dark and Lovely, Let's Jam, and TCB were made by white owned companies. Other 79% said it was important to purchase products made by black owned companies in the future. So when this came out, and then it definitely was a list of companies we would think were black owned. A lot of us was like, not gonna do it, not gonna do it, because you didn't put in no work. You saw what was growing and you went and copied products. You saw what was growing. So African Pride, how much those relaxers cost? What, about $4? No conditioning treatments at all. Dark and Lovely, Less Jam, TCB, and then now you have Asian companies making edge control. Not gonna do it. Not gonna do it. So everybody is trying to get on the bandwagon of natural hair, and whatever they think Africans or black culture is purchasing, they want to go and hurry up and want to purchase those, create products, and they want to take it, you know, from those black owned companies and make it their own. So just being very, very mindful of that. Even if you create a product and you say, "Oh, it's going to be in the beauty supply stores," please, I'm going to say this and I'm going to move on. Don't be fooled. It'll be in the beauty supply stores for maybe a year or two. There's this big manufacturing company in California. Most of the time, the beauty supply stores will pull that. Remember, it's a network. And so they would take that product, send it over to California, to be, let me let them know, to be reversed. So when that product is done like a reverse ingredient list, it'll pull up everything that that product was made up of, and then now you will start to see that that company, that breeder supply, will order less and less of your product and put more and more of their product out. They're basically taking your ingredient list and changed a few things on it, made it similar, and start putting that on the shelves. And then your product becomes less and less bought, and their product becomes less and less, more and more bought. And it may be just a tad bit cheaper. And so it's the same thing that Target does when they Target brand products versus name brand products, Walmart brand versus regular products, the same thing. So being it's a doggy dog world, it's a low down world when it comes to the beauty business and your products and ingredients. But as you grow, you'll learn more about that. Um, and so yeah, so the culture aesthetics, more afro started to decline, and here you go with braids and many other styles and techniques coming into play. Okay. It says for a time, braids were appropriate only for women and girls under 35. But as you can see, braids are now appropriate for all styles, all cultures. You see all cultures wearing it and of all ages. You even have some guys that be trying to go and ball, trying to hold on to their little hair. Um, and things of that nature. So we coming along. FYI, during a braider symposium, attendees were made aware of a long-standing struggle between local braider Pamela Farrell and her husband, proprietors of Cornrows and Company Salon and the Cosmetology Board in Washington, D.C. Years later, Cornrows and Company Salon was victorious in their struggle. Okay. Um, and you'll find that a lot of issues come about now when it comes to like barriers in salons when it comes to braids. You have a lot of companies who are founded and then techniques are founded, not necessarily patents are given out as frequently as they did back in the day. And so you have techniques being generated that you have individuals holding what we call trade secrets. Okay, trade secrets, and that's something if you can explain your technique and things like that, you can categorize it. It's when people go get copyrights, you can click trade secret. Okay, and trade secret has is that little form of protection until you move over into patenting, things like that. So if someone else comes out with your trade secret, you may have liable causes to sue. So you got to be very careful. Things that we post on the internet, remember, when we put it on there, it's free for everybody. So we got to be mindful of techniques, videos, all kind of stuff that we put out, simply because we're sharing to everyone and anyone, and then we want to turn around and say that this was mine, they stole it, and no one did it because you put it out there. And so you have to be very, very mindful of that. This is why I tell people go ahead and snatch up your usernames and websites and IGs and stuff like that. So it'll have a stamp date on it. And even if you don't come out with it for a couple of years, you've always had that stamp date on it. And it's just now the industry just moves a little bit more with digital background. So digital evidence, intellectual property. So that has so much more stance. I have a friend named Gibbs. He invented a barber comb razor, like an edger for the line, and he has a patent on it, everything. And he just updated his patent. I just saw on one of his posts. So huge congratulations to him. But if you guys ever thinking about a special tool or you use something special to do the hair, detangle the hair, whatever, get you some drawings, okay, and start to see what you can do to recreate this. If you can see if you how you can recreate this and get a mold done and then apply for a patent. Okay, once you do that, that's like ownership. Anybody else that comes out with anything even close to it or exactly or steals it, whatever revenue they've made, they might as well send it over to your bank account. Okay. Um, as we talk about transitioning and natural hair texture, now we have individuals transitioning from um, overly curly, straight hair over into natural hair. So when you say the word transitioning, most of the time you're going from one texture over into the next. In the 90s, you see locks became very popular. And when I tell you, I did not see locks. I saw it on TV, But I did not see people with locks, y'all, until I went to Atlanta from Memphis. I did not see people with locks until I went to Atlanta. All right. Um, and when I went to Atlanta, when I tell you, and it was for a show, my first couple times going to the Brunner Brothers show, I fell in love with locks. Period. And I still want to transition into some type of lock soon as my hair grows out. But I think I'm gonna end up getting some extensions or something. But I love lock.
Boo.
What you telling me? Yes or no?
Extensions is a whole thing when it comes to locks. Like it depends upon what kind of extensions you're getting and what you want the overall look to be, and how much work do you really want to
I'm gonna have to sit in your chair, huh? We need to come to
do.
Jesus.
We need a conversation.
We do because I don't want them heavy. I don't want them heavy, and I don't think I can do heavy around my edges anyway. But I do like. I guess I don't know. I do like the locks, but I don't want to do the growing stage of it. My friend got some, and as her hair grew, she trimmed the the artificial hair off, and in some places it's beautiful and amazing. So I kind of want the same thing because I don't like doing my hair, but I would definitely rock lock styles. I'm sorry, I'm gonna make an appointment. And when you look at natural hair textures, virgin hair that is non-chemical, curly hair pattern described as wavy, curly, coily, and highly textured hair. I'm sorry to bust some of you guys' bubbles, but all of that 4C and B and D and things like that, that was created to sell products. Some people still float in that era. Okay, Bronner Brothers even picked up on it and they had products catered to that. It was created to sell products. The only textures are curly, wavy, coily, and highly textured. Highly textured would be maybe a combination of a really tight one. Okay, and people they try not to say kinky. Okay, so kinky will replace highly textured hair, and so that simply would be the textures. Um, and a lot of the time, if you think about products and ingredients, it is the same products and ingredients, but they just, again, marketing. We have to be smart as consumers what we're purchasing. And so if you're on the product making side, yes, you would probably want to keep that system in place because you'll be able to cater, capitalize your clients and then make products, maybe the same product, change the name and the color of the packaging. That's what they do. And make sales. But if you're the consumer, you need to know a lot of times it's just the same product. Okay. Um, there are trade shows just for natural hair. So the one we talked about in California, and also there's the Afro show in London. Check that out too, the Afro show in London. And I've always wanted to go to the Afro show in London. It's just like the one in Atlanta, but it is consumer based. So it's not like professional stylist based. It's consumer based. It's the place where consumers come to see all of the natural hair brands and see what's coming out, what's new. And when I tell you, London has a big, big, big Afrocentric market. Okay. London has a big Afrocentric market, just like Africa does. They're just now learning about other products. When you think about the number one product in Dubai, what do you think is the number one product, hair product in Dubai? And Dubai is between Africa and Asia. So, number one hair product. What do you think? It's
Has to
something
be some type of moisturizer or anti-frizz something.
y'all gonna fall out. It's two of them. Organic root stimulator. That relax in the green box. Number one. product. Number two is the blue grease. We all know what that staple blue grease is, right? Um, one
That
and
good old blue magic.
that good old blue magic. Why is blue magic number two in Dubai? Y'all, when I say what ain't selling here, you wonder how they still around. They're just being discovered in other countries. All right. And so if it takes care of, and remember that area is really drying, that's the desert. So yeah, they need some moisture. Okay. They need a whole lot of other stuff. They're discovering relaxers. So what was super curly? Oh, we got something over there. There's something that we can we can use. Yeah. And so a lot of times don't just look at one region where you're gonna gain success at. You have a whole lot of artists that are not popular today. They were popular back in the day, but they go overseas. They're like the top stars. You have the rest of the world to sell your products to and to do styles with. And so don't let your barriers here stop you from doing anything. I went over to Toronto, has a major Afro market, natural hair market, huge, probably bigger than the United States. Huge. When I say huge, huge. And I think I did a color class over there, and ended up using like a kiss color, like semi-permanent red something. They were looking like mouth open. I'm like, what? So what's discounted over here is major in a whole lot of other areas. Absolutely major. So that's something to definitely think about. You have blogs now, you have podcasts now. Shout out Jada. You have so many other resources and revenues of building a market for natural hair care. It should be absolutely, I'm going to say, easy if you wanted to build a natural hair market. Sometimes you just create the platform. It is still so much more to grow. Okay. And so many people are looking to transition into natural. And then you have a few websites here. And these are just some companies: Curl Daughter, Naturally Curly, Jane Carter Solutions. And Jane Carter Solutions were one of those solutions for like biracial people that needed to learn how to control curly hair, that never dealt with curly and kinky hair. And so that came in. Miss Jessie's is still around. I think it's a whole lot of more product companies. And if you look at some of the companies at L'Oreal or P&G, just do your research. You'll learn that some of the companies that are um, owned by black have black owners, and some are no longer owned by black companies. But most of the time, if you're in this natural world, and that is your world, you're probably wanting to purchase from individuals who actually relate to you a lot. In 2010, curlynikki.com was sold to curlynaturally.com for an undisclosed amount and has become one of the leading blogging websites. So can you imagine you cultivated this website and you dedicated to natural hair? And you have so many followers, so many people who are looking for resources, that they are having threads and conversations. You are the gatherer. All right. And then for undisclosed amount, here's another company that says we want to buy that because you have access to consumers. Those consumers want to be, we want those consumers to be our consumers. And so you'll have companies that come give you this crazy amount of money that you've never seen before for something you created. And it says from the late 90s until today, companies like Curl's Daughter, Jane Carter Solution, New I Do, and Miss Jessie's, which first developed their products in home kitchens, are now considered major manufacturers. So we can keep on going. We can keep on going. Okay. As we prepare to close out, some of the career paths. If you want to braid, you can braid. If you want to be a braid technician, great. It's just entry level. I would like you to go further than that. A braid stylist. Okay. You're trained, adequately trained. You have knowledge in hair loss, cleaning, sanitation, so and holistic. You know, more holistic approach. A braid designer. You can do a lot of high skilled braiding. I would consider the young lady that does the baldy braid. a braid designer, just has a natural eye and can create these different looks on pretty much anyone. And then you have the master braider, technical, artistic, historical, and intellectual knowledge of the industry of braiding and natural hair. So many states just say braiding license or natural hair license or braiding certification, but these are the different, I guess, titles under braiding. And then also you look at rules and state regulations and Tennessee regulations. I have to give my shout out to Pearl Walker, who's now, I think she sits on the city council. But Pearl Walker, please follow her, look her up. Pearl Walker, as far as Memphis and Tennessee, she helped bring natural hair licensure to life. Okay, she stirred up. She was an advocate. We got on buses. Yeah, you were not gonna. Yeah, this is why you guys have a license, because I believe because of her strong work in the beginning to bring that to the table, to set you guys apart from natural hairstyles, from cosmetologists, because to do natural hair, they wanted you to go all the way to cosmetology school. And so this is where you have something set apart. And I say kudos to Miss Pearl Walker from Memphis, Tennessee. Um, and then looking at now, what we have today is more holistic approach to natural hair care. And this is where we start to introduce healthiness and the wellness of hair care, scalp products, and we start to have the conversation about healthy bodies. Now you have individuals who are becoming vegan and more organic and things of that nature. So um, it starts to evolve. It's not just about the hairs, what you're putting in your body and what you're putting on your body, and just the care of. Some people have meatless and things of that nature. So vegetarian. So now you're talking about the health of it. Market and industry influence. We've discussed it before. The culture, aesthetic. We drive a market. And then if you are social media savvy, you are younger. And this is why I said I don't think that Madam CJ Ward product had any Gen Z on the team. Because if it did, Gen Z likes moving pieces. They like colorful pieces. They don't like safe colors. They would have changed fonts and had other marketing materials to bounce off of each other. For instance, that packaging that Kaleidoscope has with the brat, genius. I don't really use her products because I pretty much know a little bit about the private label part of it, but and I respect that once you got your money up, then you started cultivating your own ingredients and things of that nature. So a lot of smaller companies do start in that private label market. Um, but genius. It's colorful. It has a theme, which is rap and music. Her media packages came in like a stereo box, just super, super cool. And so that had definitely had Gen Z influence in it. And so many people need to know Gen Z influence is really going to push. You should have somebody in your on your marketing team that's 17 to 24. Period. And even if it's a child, you'll put it before your child. So what you think of this? Bam. They're gonna tell you they know what they like, they know what they don't like, they know what's gonna move, what's gonna push, and you'll probably have more of platform, social media, ad marketing to it, and videos and reels more than you will have paper posts, flyers, and shows and things like that. It'd be more virtual experience, and that's simply what I'm learning because I'm studying just Gen Z buying and marketing styles, and because Gen Z is going to be, it's already more of them than any other group of people in the United States. Also, what's going to happen, they're going to be the ones that have the most buying power. So they're going to have more money than our generation ever did. And so it's almost like, how do we not be doomed? Because there's a lot of things they don't care for anymore, like our parents did. But there has to be something to cultivate and grow and adapt as they grow. So please, please, please run some stuff past your children, because and they're gonna tell the truth. And if they're at least 12 years old, you can put them on your taxes. You can put them as an employee, okay, as a online marketing specialist, period. All right. And so just the effect of social media is growing. We can do many experiments and things of that nature. So it's amazing. Here's the myth of natural textured hair. There's so many misconceptions, untruths, and misleading information. Your job is to cut those myths off. You will forever be a student. All right? You'll forever be the student, and you're always studying. Making sure we do these review questions 1, 2, and 3, which of all the information is not really a whole lot, but 1, 2, and 3. Make sure we do these review questions, and you need to get your notebook and do the review questions for every chapter. So we're paused here because we are done with one, and actually, what's today? Today's Wednesday. Yeah, let's pick up on chapter 2 next week, infection control principles and practices. And also, what I'm going to do next week, before we move into chapter 2, I'm going to go into our state board. Okay. And so we want to look up some things with infection control principles and practices. And we're going to go into the state law book and pull out those areas that you need to review for your exam. Okay. And so we want to do that next week.
Hey, Miss D,
Uh-huh.
could we go over practical as well since mine is coming up too?
Yes, yes. And you're taking a theory when?
I take theory on Sunday.
Okay, yeah. And we will drive into that. I want to have Nini finished by the end of the year. So Nini, that's our goal, okay? We got to go 1 through 5 with you because you picked up on the other ones. So we'll hit 2. We'll just hit it hard the rest of the month. Try to hit the chapters and stay board prep at the same time. And so I'm gonna be super excited. Let's do that next week. We'll pick up on theory and practical, and you definitely come back and tell us how you did, Jada. And we know you're gonna do amazingly well. And if I think of anything, Jada, I'm send it to you before you test. Okay?
Thank you.
No problem. No problem. All right. Get those check-in questions done, Nini, and then we'll move over to chapter 2. And if you do have a notebook, just go ahead and say check-in questions chapter 1, check-in questions chapter 2, so on and so on. And so we'll have, when it's time to study, you can go back and you can just start reviewing those questions and looking at your terms. And those are going to be some of the major things we'll look at. So next week, state board prep, and also we'll move into chapter 2. Y'all have a blessed and amazing day. It's been a blessing to have y'all. And I'm going to drop the state board meeting in the group so you guys can check it out, listen to it, and just kind of see how well everything is done. And I want to see you guys, hear from you soon. Until next time,